Know this. Introducing the original blood clot podcast, not players. Soothing Semantics. Special dedication all the way from New York. Boom. Yeah, man. SWOT Semantics. Yeah, me know. Boom. Soothing Semantics. Yeah, me know. Big ups to the man now. Soothing Semantics.
Welcome to the Soothing Semantics podcast. I'm your host, Rafi Pinsky. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the all button, the bell at the top, so you are notified whenever there's a new episode. Today, we have not Nathalie, but Nathalie. Okay, and let me get this. Okay, Nathalie Henrich. Did I get it right?
Henrich.
Okay, so see, this is a big fuckery. It's not Nathalie. There's a lot of H's that aren't being pronounced here. This is very complicated.
True.
When you were younger in school, did your teachers do this a lot? Did they mess up?
No, because I'm from Germany. It's just a German name. So in German, it's Nathalie Henrich. It's just a normal name. But here in the United States, everybody makes it like a different thing. So now, ever since I'm here in Miami, it's difficult. But in Germany, I never had an issue other than that I have an H in my Natalie, like the TH. So I was just saying Natalie with TH. But here I'm Natalia, Nathalia, Nathalie, Henrich, Heinrich. I don't know. People make all kinds of things here.
Is that common though? Is it common in Germany to have the H's?
I would say it's less common than without the H, but yeah, you see it, and it's like it's a French name, so it's somewhat European, you know. So yeah.
Or there's an air conditioning company, Friedrich. I think it's German, and I used to say Frederick when I was a little kid because I didn't know how to pronounce it.
It's probably Friedrich.
Oh, hello, Friedrich. It was made in Deutschland. The air conditioning and the Volkswagen. I have a friend's last name is Spiegel. I have to make sure he watches this. You know the newspaper Der Spiegel?
It's Spiegel, yeah.
Der Spiegel. So
Which
every time
mirror.
What does it mean?
Mirror.
Mirror. Well, he has a very good sense of style, so that kind of makes sense. Yeah. So whenever like it became a thing, I think maybe 2 years ago, where everyone in our friend group, whenever they see him, they automatically just pop out a German accent. It's hilarious. It's great.
Poor thing. But it's like interesting because in Germany, our last names oftentimes still have a meaning. Like they used to like put the last names according to what your profession was. So oftentimes you still have like names that you could tell in their lineage they were like, I don't know, like had a bakery or made shoes or something like that.
Yeah, Bredenbacher or something, Bredenbacher or whatever the heck.
Mm-hmm. So you
Something
probably
like that.
lived like somewhere at the river, something like that.
Oh, that's cool.
It means Bright River, so that probably means that you live somewhere at the Bright River.
Well, most countries do this though. Most countries, the last name is connected with usually an occupation or a place. It's usually how it works.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nathalie, you have a very interesting Instagram page, and you do Tantra retreats, womb wisdom. So you're from where I grew up in New York, you would fit perfectly in a place like Williamsburg. I don't know if you've ever heard of Williamsburg. It's like this very hipster kind of place. And maybe you get offended if people call you hipster, but because this is your entire being is it's very new to me. Because I see pages similar to yours, all of this holistic healing and things of that nature. It's very different from the city New York kind of place that I grew up in. So give us a little bit of an idea of your upbringing, and then we're going to get into all of the tantric conversation, because I actually have a colleague who I was talking to, and she's like, have you ever heard of like tantric sex? And I said, no, what is that? I had no idea what it was. So I started looking at it. And then I figured, since I saw you wrote Tantric, I was like, okay, I'm curious to hear more about this. So tell me a bit about what your upbringing was like, and then we'll get into what you do.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I've never heard about this area in New York. Although I love New Yorkers, I'm always getting along with them because I feel like they're very similar to Germans. And I'm not going to offend when you say hipster because I feel like, you know, whatever people put you in, it's not true regardless. You know what I mean? Like we're all everything in a way. But my upbringing, so I'm half German, half Korean. So I grew up in Germany. But in Germany, I don't look really German, right? So I was always also different in Germany. And I grew up with my mom is Korean, so also like very Korean. And then I used to be a banker back in Germany, which is like completely different. But I was so wrong being a banker. I remember back then I was like, what the heck am I doing here? It was so wrong.
You wanted to be on some island. Look at your background. The banker doesn't suit you. I can never. That's weird. I don't know you. We're getting to know each other now, but imagining you as a banker based on the page you have is I can't even imagine.
I want to tell you something. I actually look really fly. Like I had these pearl earrings on and like, you know, pearl, like everything. I love white and black pearls, especially the rare black pearls. I always had handmade Italian suits on. I was actually very chic. It actually really did suit me. Like it fit me, but on the outside. But my inside, yeah, I'm definitely not a banker. I would like stare at the screen. I would think, what the heck am I doing here? I'm so wrong. And the good thing is because I studied finances, the university gave us an opportunity to world travel. So I was able to study in Santa Barbara and I went to Singapore. I worked in Singapore for a while and I'm half Korean, right? So the whole Asian thing. So I started traveling a lot. I went to Cuba, to Mexico. I went to Guatemala, then I went like all the Asian countries. And when I came back to Germany, it was so hard for me, so hard because now I was traveling so much and I saw so many things and so many different things. And so I really could never really come back fully. So I kind of stopped the whole banking thing. And then I dropped like in sales and kind of stuff. And then I met my former husband, the father of my kids. I met him back in Germany. He is Cuban. So he wanted to come to Miami. So I always wanted to go to Miami because I speak Spanish. I dance salsa, I dance samba, like I dance like all Latino dances. I always like identified a lot with the Latino girls. Like I love that they had the sexy
you look Latin. You look Latin. That's what I would.
Yeah. I do, and I think people tell me as well I sound Latin because I speak Spanish, you know, the same way I speak English. So I feel Latin, like my heart feels Latin. When I speak Spanish, I feel like I'm home. So I came to Miami and then I had 3 children. And because my marriage was very, very abusive, I lived in domestic violence for a long time. And I got really sick and like my womb and my spirit and just everything in me got sick. And I started studying acupuncture and I became a doctor in Chinese medicine. And through acupuncture, I went into the hippie scene. So I got introduced, I don't want to say hippie, I want to say more conscious community. So I got introduced to sound healing, to all kinds of different healing modalities, Reiki, theta healing, Tantra eventually as well. I went into plant medicine, ayahuasca, peyote.
I was going to ask ayahuasca, psilocybin, mushrooms, stuff like that.
Yeah. So I started doing ceremonies as well. Not doing, but I started attending them. And so, and I started a whole healing journey. And so here we are, you know, and now I feel like I'm this potpourri. I'm this mixture of everything. You know, I come from the matrix in that like corporate Germany, not corporate America, corporate Germany. And then I went and I aligned with the elements and the earth. And I learned more about the laws of nature and the universe and energies.
Okay. So now moving away from, as you call it, the matrix, it's funny because I've been hearing this word a lot lately.
That you call it.
You kind of were very, I guess you can call it like everyone else, where everyone in corporate America or corporate, whichever country you're in, has their job, they have their career, they have their white picket fence, and they do what they do every day, day in and day out. How do you shift from doing that to where you are now? And how do you find stability in what you do now, or a stability the opposite of what you're looking for? Because I think when a lot of people that have normal jobs, when they look at people that do what you do, it seems to be so free-spirited and open, where every day is different. Mm-hmm. So do you have these certain routines? Do you make a lot of money doing what you're doing? Because I'm honestly very curious to know that. You don't have to tell me your net worth, but I'm curious to know, when someone does this holistic healing, is money not even a factor? Do you live in a tent and, I don't know, eat mangoes and whatever? I mean, Like I said, I don't know much about this world. That's why we're having this conversation.
Yeah, this is such a good question. I get this question all the time. So let's start with the first question. It's more like how to make the transition. So I think the transition happens is like this. For instance, right now you're saying, well, I'm hearing the word matrix lately a lot. Or people say, all of a sudden, everybody around me starts talking about ayahuasca. Or, you something happens in your life that's different, right? Some energy comes in your life and you're like, something feels different. I have different type of conversations, different type of people come to my life, right? So that's already like a calling from the universe, from God, from your angels, whatever you want to call it. We don't want to put a religion on it, right? A higher force that comes into your life and says, hey, Rafa, you need to shift something, right? And then you get curious, and then all of a sudden you look into other things and you go to Instagram, and all of a sudden other people pop up, right? So that's already the first thing. And then slowly when you go more and more into it, for instance, you're saying, I'm interested in Tantra. Maybe at one point you're going to have a Tantra session, or you go on a Tantra retreat, just an example, or you go to an ayahuasca retreat. Or
I've thought of doing this, by the way. I'm heavily interested in doing this sort of thing.
It's very interesting. Okay, let's stay with ayahuasca. Ayahuasca works like that. It comes into your life like this. People start talking to you about it. And it's not me. I'm not talking to you. It's the medicine talking to you. Either ayahuasca, we say it's the medicine. Is her talking to you? It's a feminine medicine.
Oh, that's a trip. That's a trip. So you're trying to tell me that you personally are not talking to me? It's a spiritual calling, so to speak.
Well, in the 3D, yes, you and I were talking, right? But there's energy. And you know how we say sometimes God spoke to me, or an angel spoke to me, or I had like something happening, some higher force spoke to me. So it's that people come into your life, and yes, in the 3D, you can touch them and they have blood in their veins and they have skin and they look like humans. But it's the energy that is a vessel that talks to you. The message is what's important, right? So that message comes through to you and say, hey, you're curious about it, and now we're talking about it, and maybe tomorrow another person's going to talk to you about it, and you'll be like, damn. And then all of a sudden you get an invite, and then you're sitting in an ayahuasca ceremony. So it comes in like that. So when you're asking me, how do you transition? You become more aware of the signs, and you will probably say, man, that's so trippy, that's so weird. But at one point, it's not trippy to you anymore. At one point, you just, it's just a normal thing. Like with my people, we don't talk about it. Oh my God, this was so weird. It's like, oh yeah, it's just the universe talking to you. So you get used to that type of messaging, you get used to that type of messaging. You get used to it. And then you understand, okay, it's somebody, a higher force talking, and I need to go this way now. So when do you know this? Most of the time when you have a job that you really don't like, or you're in a relationship that you really don't like, and you complain about it every single day. The reason why you don't like it is because God's telling you every single day, get out of it, but you don't. So you don't get out of it because your ego is your ego. It's you might say, I need stability. I cannot just get out of it. What are my parents going to think? What my family, what my friends are going to say? So you have all these conceptions, right? So when you free yourself from that you go out of your own body and you say, none of this is real. So the best way to understand it is, imagine you would die. And I know some people hate to talk about death because like, I don't want to talk about my death. But imagine you would die today. Would it really matter? Would it really matter? Like, what would matter to you? 100% matter if you know you have only one more day to live. And that's where you can maybe make a shift where you say, well, you know what? Fuck my job. Fuck the girl I'm dating right now. Fuck everything. I'm out of here. And I really want to go to Bali and live there. And then you know what's
interesting? I hear that logic many times. And yeah, if I knew that, God forbid, I was dying today, then I would definitely stop working and just, I don't know, if I had a half a day to live or a few days, then yeah, of course I would try to see everyone I loved and maybe do some wild things. Honestly, I don't know what I would do. It would be tough, but because the likelihood of me dying tomorrow is quite slim, anything's possible, but it's probably not going to happen. I'm going to bet on living for many years to come. So that's why I'd rather do very long-term goal kind of things, because I believe that God's going to give me a relatively long life, hopefully, 80s, whatever it is, maybe in the hundreds, who knows? So that's kind of my counter argument, and I'm not, it's not necessarily an argument, it's just a different point of view, is I don't think I'm going to be gone tomorrow, right? If we all had a very short lifespan, then yeah, I probably wouldn't really care to build some sort of empire, because for me, I'm a realtor and I want to be a real estate developer. I want to build a huge podcast. I want to be very wealthy. And there are plenty of people, maybe such as yourself, who doesn't really see that as something important. But like I said, again, I plan on being around for a while. So I do want to build something for the long haul. But at the same time, I would like to be doing this holistic healing thing. That sounds great. Definitely. We'll definitely have to talk about it.
Well, I love money and money loves me. And I'm also really bougie, for my lifestyle. I'm actually a bougie girl, like in my scene,
Yeah.
And I do want to have a lot of money because I know with a lot of money, I can make a lot of things happen.
You can buy a lot of ayahuasca, Natalie. Like you can buy.
I would not buy a lot of ayahuasca. I don't have to buy ayahuasca because
you can buy premium Gucci style.
Yeah.
Branded.
I know. I could buy Gucci, which is made by little kids somewhere under minor age.
It's sad, right?
Yeah, that get paid maybe $1 an hour. I could do that. Or I could build huge retreat centers where I help women to heal. Or I could, do it. I could build a charity or something like that and could do good. And there's a lot of rich people in this world, and some are here and are very rich and they're just bawling and like shining with their diamonds and stuff. And doing, in my eyes, nonsense, but it's great, whatever for them, it works for them, fine. And there's a lot of very rich people here in this world that do a lot of good things. So just because you're a hipster doesn't mean that you're always broke. So that's another thing people think when spiritual people are always broke. So now there's a reality that a lot of people, spiritual people, are broke. But you know what? In the working world, there's a lot of people broke all the time.
Oh, for sure.
They're super broke. And there's a lot of people that are actually very wealthy. I would consider myself being okay. I'm a single mother of 3 kids and I do it all on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 teenage boys. I'm not a millionaire yet, but I see myself as very abundant. I live pretty much the way I want to live. I don't have to work if I don't want to. And when I want to, I work. I don't sweat it anymore to go into the 9 to 5, but it took me a long time to let go of the belief that I have to do things in a matrix. You have to free yourself. And this freedom is an internal work that you have to do. Nobody can give that to you. Is to understand that you are fully free. And how I can mostly understand it is when I think about that I die. When I die, then I free myself from all death that exists, from all the illusion that I think that I have to have this and have to have that. None of this in this moment will be relevant. So now, does it prevent me from, like, I can say, okay, whatever, I just live in a tent? No, me personally, I don't want to live in a tent. I know a gazillion people in my community that love living in a tent. I was like, I can't even, because I love being bougie. Again, I love to eat good, and I love to buy myself good stuff, But you have to free. You don't have to, but I feel it's the best when you free yourself from all these beliefs, and then you can look like, oh, I'm just going to flow every day. Because it's not real. If let's were to say you have $1 million of debt in your bank account, and every day you freaking hustle and almost get a heart attack because you have to work, because you have to pay these debts, because you have to start fighting with your partner, with your kids. Oh my God, I'm gonna lose. And then imagine this person's gonna die. Boom. What's gonna happen? Everything's gonna disappear.
Right. Nothing matters at that point.
Everything's gonna disappear. Nothing matters. So we need to understand that all of this is just an illusion. Everything that you do every single day, that you hustle, that you struggle with, is just an illusion. It's nothing else. And that's when you find that freedom, and that's when you can transition into a different lifestyle.
You know what it is for me, though, on a not so complicated level, as much as I agree with what you're saying, it makes a lot of sense, because as humans, we tend to just chase things. When it comes to money, we're sitting there working and spending all this time. I do it. I honestly do it. I spend hours and hours just working, sitting in rooms, sitting in offices, driving in a car, meeting people at houses, when I could be seeing beautiful landscapes, traveling the world. For me, I love the hunt. I love the hustle. Like I feel that I'm building and I'm challenging myself and I'm learning. And you can do that with traveling. And I'm not saying that you have to do one and not the other. There should be mixture of both, but I don't know, I feel like I'm a guy through and through. And there are women who love to hustle, but it's just in my blood. Like I love the feeling of accomplishment. And I don't necessarily get that same feeling of accomplishment if I'm on a breezy beach. I can be on a breezy beach for so long before I start to get bored, before I need to be mentally and physically stimulated and challenged, because otherwise I feel like I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's fine. I mean, that's what I mean. Like, that's okay. If you feel good with it, then just keep on doing it. You could do real estate in any other country, in any other landscape. You could be doing real estate. I don't know.
Miami's nice though. Miami's a beautiful place to do business.
Yeah. But you can also do real estate in Bali or in Tulum, you know what I mean? Where you have beach and like, but it's like, whatever, like there's no right or wrong. So it's like,
totally.
If you feel in your heart that that fulfills you and you want to hustle and you want to achieve that, then you should do it.
Right.
That's it.
For sure. That's why I don't do a 9 to 5. That's why I do this podcast. I very much am doing things that I love to do. I can definitely say that. And are there tough components to it? Absolutely. For me though, I'm a young guy. I'm 28 and I'm doing 2 things I love. It's fantastic. I don't have to, my biggest fear, and I would say that I'm not really afraid of death. It's inevitable. It'll happen when it happens. My biggest fear is living in regret. So if I know that there's something my intuition and my gut, and we can talk about that too, because I feel like it'll have a lot to do with the holistic conversation. When your gut is telling you something, when your intuition is telling you something, there's always a truth to it. It knows.
Always right.
Your heart might tell you, your heart might misconstrue something or mislead you. Your brain might even mislead you, but your gut, it knows. Like it just, when you feel something is off or you feel you need to do something or not do something, there's a reason for it. And we often ignore it, but the more you can listen to it, you end up making much better decisions. That's what I've come to realize.
And that's when you see people doing like free flow lifestyles, because we're mainly listening to our gut. I don't make any decisions if I don't feel it in my heart. I'm just not doing it. That's it.
Right.
I trust it. But I remember the times that I didn't trust it. And this is why I felt like my life oftentimes has been so hard, And now it's like, I just know when it's a full body yes. That's how I say. If I feel it's a full body yes, and I go for it and I do it. Okay.
So back to you, I gave everyone my spiel. Going back to you, a spiel is, I don't know if it's Yiddish or German.
It's
the
German.
Spiel. The spiel. Nice. Can I give you the spiel?
Spiel means game. Yeah,
but Americans use it. Americans use the word all the time.
You use a lot of German words.
We do.
We do. You actually don't know about.
We use Oktoberfest even when we're at a friend's house. We're like, bring out the beer.
You say kindergarten.
Yes.
You say Gesundheit.
Yes, that's true. I skipped kindergarten, by the way. The worst. I skipped the best year of my life. They skipped me because I had great linguistics. My language skills were above average, supposedly. But all that nap time, the building blocks. There were several years in school I didn't pay that much attention anyway. Like the best year you give me where I'm not supposed to pay attention, you skip me. It was ridiculous. But anyway, it's kindergarten.
It's always for everything.
I agree. So yeah, there are definitely a nice amount of German words thrown in. And okay, so back to you with the holistic healing. Give us an overview of what your whole retreat is like and what you're all about, essentially, what you're promoting.
So ultimately, what I am not even, I wouldn't say promoting, what I am helping others to remember, because I firmly believe that we all have it inside of us, is how to love on a deeper level and how to be in the moment. So Tantra means being in the moment. Tantra is not necessarily sex. Everybody thinks that Tantra is just about sex. But Tantra is breath work, being in the moment and being in the present. So in my retreats, I do bring in the remembrance of that, to come back to your breath and to come back to presence and to not necessarily talk so much, but feel more and look at the other and feel the other where they're at in their heart. And through that, it also gets a little bit central towards the afternoons in my retreats, where we do like more body massage and stuff, but it's very non-sexual. And I know like it's hard to understand for people that think, oh, massaging and touching body is just like ends up in sex. But it can be just being present and honoring the other person's body or the other person's temple when you create a safe container for it.
That's important. That's important. I think it's very easy to see it that way because I see massages that way most of the time. I think most people do. So if you can help people realize that it can be something else or it can be used for something else, that's important.
Yeah.
What is interesting to me is I also think that a lot of people view these retreats as kind of culty. Have you gotten that before? Where you'll have the host of it, where you'll have like the one who's organizing it, and everyone else, you'll have like 50 people there and they're all just doing what this person is saying. For someone that hasn't done it before, even, you're talking to someone like myself who hasn't done it before. You said you didn't like the word promoting, so you're kind of helping people understand it is maybe a better word. Where can someone who hasn't done it before see the legitimacy in it, or kind of understand it before they even go and do something like that, without it seeming like a bunch of mystical,
Yeah. I mean, you can read through it, on my website or something. You can read what we're going to be doing. I believe somebody that really sees it as very ritualistic or culty or weird are people that just don't come. And I would never tell them to come because not everything is for everybody. If you're not a banker, you just don't have to be a banker.
Right.
So for me, I would never convince anybody. So people that come to me, I don't hear it, because people that come to me are people that are intrigued and are already interested and they're already open to receive that. And somebody that's not usually doesn't cross my path, or if they cross my path, they're just like, okay, sounds good. Okay, bye. And that's it. So yeah, again, like for me, I'm very flowing with it, because again, not everything is for everybody. And if it's not for you, if you want to keep on watching porn and having like that quick sex life and you don't care about anything and you just want to go strip club every weekend, that's fine. I'm not going to tell you not to do it. If you're happy, then do it. I just don't want to do it. And there's other people that don't want to do it either. So culty, it gets like that more also when people talk about gurus and stuff. So like I said, I will never want to say that I'm a teacher, or people say you're such a healer, a medicine woman or something like that. I just want to always tell people I don't do that. I just help you to remember, because it's in us, it's in you already. So if I speak to you and it resonates inside of you, what I'm saying, you're like, when that resonance is there, that means it's already in you. You just have to go a little bit deeper inside of you to remember that. And that's it.
Definitely. No, it sounds great. I just wanted to ask all these questions. When you talk about the divine feminine, so say masculine and feminine connection, how does that play into this?
You mean like in
the connection in the retreat, right?
There's a principle of the masculine and the feminine, which is yin and yang. Most people know what yin and yang is. Black and white is that circle with yin and night, black and white. So it's night and day. It's the opposites, right? It's like the proton and the electron, right? The negative and positive poles. So we women have our negative pole in our lower chakras, in our genital area, and we have our positive pole in the heart area. And with men, it's vice versa. You have your positive pole in your genital area, and you have your negative pole in your heart area. So it's like a battery, right? It's the opposite directions. And this is how it can work. This is how it creates electricity. So the retreats are about that. It's about the dance between negative and positive, between feminine and masculine, and how we can balance each other out. Because this is the law of the universe, dark and night. Dark is the feminine, is like the womb is dark. And light is the man, yang, the white on the yin and yang, that's the man, male energy, right? Positive energy. So it's all about how to balance both energies out, because by law, it just is. Positive and negative just is. It just exists. Dark and light just is. There's no better or worse. We say as women, oh, you men suck. And then the guys are like, oh, you women suck too. It's like, no, we want to balance that. So it's the art of balancing this. So when you come to my retreat, especially when it comes to sexuality or intimacy. Let's say intimacy overall, because intimate can be conversations, caressing each other, looking into each other's eyes, living with each other, or just having intimate feeling for each other. It's not only the sexual act or intercourse itself, right? It's the whole dance of relationship between men and women. So we're working on how we can see each other better, communicate better, and balance and make that balance, that dance between the man and the woman in a nicer, in a more beautiful, in a more loving way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm picturing it actually. That's why, because I'm like visualizing it.
Mm-hmm.
When I've seen these retreats, I'll see a man and his woman or a woman he's on the retreat with, and she's kind of sitting on him, and they're doing this whole connective thing where they're looking at each other. So that's kind of what I'm picturing when you tell me this.
Yeah, the exercise that we're looking at each other is called eye gazing, and I love doing that exercise. It's one of the most important exercise in Tantra, or like in any teachings really, that it's about presence and connection. Because when we eye gaze, we see the soul. The eyes let us look into the soul of the person. So oftentimes we don't have a lot of eye contact, right? So we meet each other and then we just talk, and we listen to the words. We
Very
listen to
true.
what they say or how they look. And then when we have sex, we close our eyes. Mostly the men, when we start the intercourse, the man closes his eyes, goes inside the woman. He comes, he has his eyes closed, she has his eyes closed. That's it. Over. Okay, bye.
I don't know. I don't like closing my eyes that much, to be honest with you. But I mean, people do it.
But you know what? Okay, let's say like this.
That sounds like a very, very bad experience. Huh?
I know. But I'm just, what I want to say is you're not consciously necessarily.
Totally. I got your point.
Each other's eyes, unless you're so in love that you have to just stare at each other the whole time. But I'm just talking about in general, right? Like the normal person that has never done anything with connection energy. We're not very conscious about it. Yeah, of course, I may look into your eyes, but like I'm not consciously looking into your eyes and with intention. Or when we fight, I'm not going to start eye gazing with you. I'm going to tell you what a motherfucker you are, and then he's going to tell me how stupid I am, and then you said this, but you said that. So and then when everything calms down, we come into the present and we actually see, and we sit and we look into each other's eyes for half an hour or an hour. We can do in white tantra. We do it for all day long. We look into each other's eyes for 10 hours. You have nothing else to say because there's only love. And you will see the other where they are, and you will see their pain and what they're going through. And really what it is that everybody just wants to be seen. Everybody just wants to be heard. That's really all it is.
Very true.
So at retreats, we come back to that. So however it looks with the flowers and hippie people, but there's a lot of non-hippie people attending.
Oh, that's for sure, by the way. I know there are a lot of people that are business professionals that have very organized routine lives that go to the absolutely, definitely. Mm-hmm. So this is something I'd like to do. I like to ask challenging questions. I speak my mind. So I'm going to ask you these questions. I don't mind being abrasive because it helps us. Yeah, it helps us really understand the depths of this.
Yeah, and I'm not getting offended because our words are just also an illusion. It's just in the moment they're spoken, the wind already took it and it's already in the past. It's just us holding on to it,
Right. I hear that. That's a really gentle, nice way of looking at it. I don't know if I have that same, if someone says something really shitty to me, it depends on who they are. If it's some random guy, I don't know, if I'm on the road and some guy goes, "Hey, you have a weird head," I'll be like, or even if a friend says it, but if it really depends who says it, what's said, in what context. I mean, I hear you. It's definitely important to be able to brush things aside, but it's situationally dependent because there are certain things that I won't just brush off. Now, this is a good one. In terms of tantric sex, what is that? What is it? What are the benefits of it? How does it work?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, tantric sex is similar. It's being more present and taking more time. So let's go again into examples of extremes, right? The normal 9-to-5 person comes home, eats, is in front of the TV, and then maybe you have sex in front of the TV, or you fall asleep, or you just have sex like real quick in the evening or real quick in the morning because you have to get off to work. So, and then you're like, okay, whatever. So tantric sex is about intention and taking time and honoring each other's body. So what am I doing when I honor your body? I'm not necessarily watching TV and have I don't know, Demolition Man going or some war some war movie going on, right? Because I want to be in the present. I want to enjoy the person, the body, the temple that's in front of me, and not only the body itself, but also the soul that comes with it, with all its colors, you know, from life and traumas and pains and joys and beautiful things. So it's paying more attention to who's with you, selecting better who you get involved with, and sharing more of yourself in a safer container. And now this is something that's interesting because most women resonate with this more than men in the first moment when they hear that. It's like, because we women love to be longer caressed, we need more foreplay in order to, like, you know, have orgasmic experiences. So women naturally need more time to open up their body. So for men, you guys can like quickly get into it and quickly have fun, and it's just your physicality is just built different. But then it's interesting because if you really look into the sacred masculine, the man, most men, or actually every man, loves that as well. It's like when they really get more connected with their heart, it's like, wow, I do like to be touched and caressed longer. And I actually do like a woman that takes more time with me as well and looks at me and has sex with me and not just with whatever dude, you know? So you do have the same needs. We all do have the same needs. Our physicality is built a little bit different, but when it comes to the heart-centered things and the heartfelt things, the soul-felt things, we both have the same needs. And so tantric sex is about that, you know, seeing that and just taking more time and honoring the other person more. And usually women feel like they want to be more honored. But if a man really drops into his body, he's like, oh, God damn it, I also want to be more honored. So yeah, that's what tantric sex really is about.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely something that's a powerful thing for sure. I think a lot of couples have a tough time with what you mentioned before, where they rush into it. They come home, they're tired, or they do a quick wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, it's over. And there's not much meaning. The foreplay's dead. The whole ordeal lasts a few minutes, if that, you know,
Yeah.
and that's sad for a lot of people. So this brings people together in a much more sensual, slower, more intimate way. So I hear that. So how do people have the time for that? Because that would take, that's more of a process. So do you suggest building up to it, doing it once a week? Because doing that several nights a week, if you have a couple that's highly sexual and they have sex often, say they like to have sex at least 5 days a week, if not once a day, that tantric sex, if they're both very busy people, that whole thing can take 2 hours. You know, it could be a long process. So how do you kind of hold on to it? You want to keep it going and be consistent with it, but you also don't want it to burn out, where if you're doing it too much, it can lose its spice, so to speak.
Yeah, I would just say, like, find a good balance. You know, I mean, there's nothing against quickies, you know, everybody loves quickie every now and then as well. So I think like just having a good balance, it's like, it's kind of interesting because when people like hear that I work with Tantra, I think like every time I have sex, it's like that. No, it's not. Like, I'm not going to have always 5 hours sex, you know, it doesn't work like that. But I think, yeah, finding a good balance, and then in that as well, again, like then even the quicker sex becomes more intimate. It's not just a business. It's not just like, okay, whatever.
Makes a lot of sense.
Even then it can be quick, but it can be so beautiful and so intense in that moment. You can just like open up this person, look into each other's eyes and just do it like for 3 minutes, but it's so good, you know.
You've had that experience with them already. You've already experienced,
because now you have already that soul connection, right? Or you can just, you can have the quick sex like in front of the TV, you know, and you know, in whatever doggy position, and nobody looks at each other, and you're like, okay, bye, that's it, you know. So it can be quick, and it still can be super beautiful, you know. So and I also think that when you practice this more, then you don't feel so disrespected, especially for women. Women tend to feel more disrespected. Although I have to say that also some men feel that they're just more suppressed in their emotions. Men also feel disrespected because some girls have like several dudes, or they're just like, or they cheat on them as well. You know, you guys also go through these things. It's just you don't really talk about it, and you're like, you know, you don't. For you, it's like easier to somehow live with that, you know, and not bring it out emotionally. But yeah, just find a good balance. You don't have to do it every time.
For
You
sure.
know, and when you're not so highly sexual, then it's obviously you can do it, and then it probably helps you. You probably get more sexual. And also, like when a man goes even more further into semen retention or holding the semen or just, you know, doing these things. I don't know if you ever heard about that, but
I've heard of it.
yeah, so then it's even better because then you can actually have sex all day long because your man's not getting tired because he's not spilling the semen, which is great. And then you have a whole other level of sex because it doesn't make you tired anymore. Now you come into energy where it's so highly uplifting, and it's actually like a boost of energy, and you get super, super creative. Because now you're using the sexual energy for creative energy. Now you're not using it anymore just for pleasure. You're using it actually to create, to produce things.
Well, if you're retaining the little guys, but you're having sex every day, then how are you really? Meaning, if you're not masturbating as a guy and you're only having sex with your partner, then okay, then you're technically retaining it for her, but you're still not retaining it on a daily basis. You're still releasing it. So, are you saying that because you're doing it with a significant other that you care about versus doing it in a kind of pointless fashion alone, that it has a huge difference in the way that it's released and the way that the sexual energy is released?
Well, yeah. First and foremost, you don't do it for her. You do it for yourself because you learn how to recycle your own energy back. Second, it's good when you know how to retain your semen because you're not going to get any girl pregnant randomly, you know, which is great because we have way too many kids out here where the dudes just disappear after.
Mm-hmm.
And also the woman the same, you know, just irresponsible, not protecting herself and just receiving that that semen, you know.
Yep.
There's men when they really have trained it, they don't spill it at all, and they always recycle it back. So when you recycle it back, it gives you a lot of energy, so you never spill it. But sometimes, yeah, of course, when you start doing it, then you spill, and then sometimes you don't, sometimes you do. You kind of mix it up, and you feel the difference because when you start not spilling it, and you learn how to breathe your semen, your energy back in, your orgasmic energy back in, it's so amazing. It feels so good that you don't want to go anymore to only spilling the semen. You may do it every now and then, but it's not fulfilling for you anymore.
But if you're having sex with your partner every day, that doesn't count as spilling semen, according to what you're saying? It's not the same?
I don't understand that question. What do you mean by
Meaning
that?
if it's spilling, if you're spilling it, you're spilling it. So if you're married or you're dating somebody and you guys have sex every day,
Mhm.
and you're obviously spread it, you're releasing.
You don't have to.
Oh, so you're saying to have sex and not let it out?
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's new to me. Okay.
Yeah. It's
Go on.
It's very challenging for men. I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do.
Oh, that seems very difficult. And that seems...
It requires a lot of discipline on a physical level, and it requires a lot of shifting and detox on a mental level.
So you're pretty much... You're not going to call it suppression, but I look at it as suppression. So you're just...
You expand it.
But you're going to have the feeling of orgasm without releasing it?
Yeah, and then you can orgasm for a long time because you're not releasing. Because when you release, you only orgasm for a second or so, for the 5 seconds. But when you breathe it back in and you don't spill it, you're gonna go on a high, and then you stay. It's the same for the women. The women, it's just that we're not spilling something. I mean, some women do, you know, but overall we're not spilling something. But it's like for women it's the same. She can come, goes up and goes down, and then some women can multi-orgasm, go up down until she's done, right?
But for women it's known that they can orgasm without anything coming out necessarily.
Yeah,
if they can, because a lot of women don't even get to. But for men, I always knew that too. We call that blue balls where I'm from. That's what that's different.
Women don't get to orgasm because they're not taking enough time with their bodies to get to know them, and then they don't teach their men how to take time with their bodies. You know, that's what I say. You're a normal person that really loves pleasure for women.
Mm-hmm.
You do want that, but most women don't know how to access it, and then the men doesn't know it either. You know, unless you're a guy that says, hey, let me take some time with you and I really want to make it work, and you have the patience to figure it out with her. But to go back to the orgasmic waves, like even as a woman, when you learn how to cycle back your orgasm, so not letting it out, because the energy of orgasm is always and it goes out, right? So now when you circle it back in, it goes, and then you cycle it even more back in. So even for the woman, you don't have to orgasm. So now for a woman, it doesn't make so much of a difference in terms of energy, because for you men, when you spill the semen, it's out and you're like, that's it. You know. So for a woman, when you do learn how to cycle back your orgasms as well, same thing, you can go on that high. So you go up, you orgasm, and then instead of going down, you go even higher, and then you stay on that, and you can stay on that for hours. Like, especially when both know how to do it, you stay on it for hours, and you just get high. You just get higher.
Do you think that you can kind of become addicted to holding it in also? Or do you feel like there's also a negative to doing that, where you should release it at times? Or you, unless you're, how do you personally determine when you should both release it, actually physically release it, or when you should keep it in? Because from what it sounds like you're saying is, it's pretty much, it's a much better experience to recycle it, as you're saying, versus releasing it.
I mean, you asked me about addiction. Don't you think watching porn is an addiction?
100%.
Yeah. And don't you think spilling the semen fast is an addiction? You want to come fast. Same for women. If women feel when the man doesn't spill the semen, they feel unfulfilled. They feel that they haven't performed right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you talk about sex, we always talk about some form of addiction. The thing is, like, when you go on a high, your brain, you know, has all these endorphins coming out, you know, and sometimes you're on it's like you're on DMT, you know, so all of that does something to your brain. And I don't want to say that you get addicted to it, but it's a very beautiful feeling. So why would you not want to do it in a good way? It's much of a better addiction than watching.
This is honestly really eye-opening stuff. Everything you're telling me is really eye-opening. I've never heard of such a thing. It's great. I'm glad you came on. What is womb wisdom?
Womb wisdom is the wisdom of the universe. The womb is our universe. It's Mother Earth that creates. We're creating life in our womb. Without a womb, y'all wouldn't exist. None of us wouldn't exist without the womb of a woman. So women have to remember the wisdom of the womb and the power that they're holding in the womb. We have to remember that everybody came through our womb. Because we're so misaligned with our energy, with our sexual energy, and because both women and men, you know, I'm really not a friend of women saying, oh, man, it's just the men, because it's not. It's us women doing it wrong, mainly. The reason why our men are so distorted right now is because of all women. You know, we are the guilty ones. We are like having our butts out on TikTok and showing our boobs and, you know, twerking around and dancing in strip clubs and getting all pretty. It's our fault. This is why you guys get so irritated by us, you know, by the beauty that we bring, and just, you know. So womb wisdom is really important for women, especially, to remember that we hold a certain amount of, that we hold actually all the power, and that if we change that, what we're seeing right now in our womb, then our men will change as well, and as well as our society. So we got to remember that everybody comes out of our womb, and that we're bleeding out of our womb, and that we have to give that blood back to the earth. We have to recycle it back into the earth. That's what we learn in the shamanic traditions with the medicine women in the jungles. That's what they teach us over there. And our womb gets sick a lot. You know, we women suffer a lot from yeast infections, bacterial vaginosis, condylomas, I know whatever STDs are out there, we have fibroids, we have cysts, we have endometriosis, all of that is misalignment of the womb because we misused our sexual energy and we got involved with guys that did the same thing. And so if we heal these energies in our wombs, we're better in making decisions what men we let come inside of our womb. It's with their waters because you spill your sacred waters inside of our womb. And another thing is we are able to educate our men, and we will stop doing everything for money and shaking our booty so you can give us more of this and give us more of that. You know, we all should stop with it so you can also calm down. You men can calm your minds and you can start calming down and you can start treating us better. Because also the reason why a lot of guys are not treating women good is because we're feeding into that energy.
So that's very controversial because a lot of women get very upset at what you just said. And I happen to agree with it, but a lot of women get very upset. So if I'm understanding it correctly, you're saying that when you give off a certain energy, men are going to respond accordingly. That's what you're saying, right? And women get very upset at this. And they say, for instance, if a woman is dressed very provocatively, if she's walking down the street and a bunch of guys start honking at her, they're going to say, oh, well, what right do they have to do that? It's like, well, I just wish people were more rational about this and didn't get so triggered. And it's like, if you're dressing a certain way, you're entitled to do that if that's what makes you happy. Mm-hmm. But men are visual creatures. And the reason that women are doing this is for validation and attention. Yeah. Because when they turn 60, 70 years old, they no longer do it anymore. And they don't know. Yeah, very rarely. The ones that are absolutely delusional and don't understand that they're as old as they are, but the majority don't. And they don't because they understand that they no longer have that same sexual value. So it's the catch-22 of they don't want men to catcall them, but then they dress in a way that would push men to catcall them. And well, I don't do it. I don't catcall women. I think it's ridiculous. But at the end of the day, as much as like on one hand they don't like it, but on the other hand they like knowing that men want them, right? So it's like.
I would not say that every woman would get upset at what I just said. I think a lot of conscious women are actually holding themselves accountable and want to work on that. And I know a lot of them.
That's good because on the internet, you see a lot of people get very upset about it.
But that also shows you the degree of consciousness. Understand? So if somebody's not conscious about it and has not started working on themselves, then, then of course you're offended because you have not worked on yourself. You cannot look at your own shit. But I mean, this
is gospel right here, baby. Good.
but same like for men. I mean, also men have to work also on a lot of things. And I'm not saying it's only women. I'm just saying that we have more power to change things because we hold the womb. And yes, because you men are visual creatures. Now, again, this is just an effect. What you were just describing with the clothing and honking at girls is just an effect. It's not the root cause. That's just what happens as a result. The root cause is that women have forgotten how to honor their own bodies, and therefore men do the same. Men have forgotten how to honor our bodies. So there's still a lot of men, even if you dress very sexy, because they have worked on themselves so much, they will not lose their shit. Even if you dress super sexy, they're not impressed by it because they have worked on their sexuality, on their sexual energy, and have worked on it, and vice versa.
Well, I think also real quick to interject, for me, there's a big difference in somebody that just looks good for eye candy and somebody that I would want to settle down with. And I think that applies to a lot of men where if they have certain rules, if they have certain traditions, they'll look at a woman and find her attractive. They'll think she's sexy. But when it comes down to keeping her or wanting to settle down with her, that guy will immediately write her off. And that applies to me. There are just women I'll look at it and say, wow, that's a beautiful woman. But if that's how she dresses, she can do that. It's a free country. But I'm not interested in settling down with somebody like that.
Yeah, but it also depends on the dude. I mean, here in Miami, it's very typical because like
Miami welcomes that. Oh, I'm not talking about Miami. Oh, for sure. There are a lot of guys who like that. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but, or if you're like in a very much machista type of energy, like environment, then guys do like, young girls that are dressed all sexy, but to settle down and want something else. But if you have somebody that has evolved a little bit more, there's a lot of men as well that love to show off their woman. And it's like, oh, I want you to dress sexy. I want you to look good. So it really also depends a little bit on the background, the culture, I would say.
It has to do mostly with culture.
Yeah.
I grew up in a religious Jewish environment. So
yeah. So then they're
yeah, no, I don't mean like the hardcore, heavily religious, pretty moderately religious, but nonetheless. So yeah, there's always something in the back of my mind that says, okay, well, there has to be a level of modesty for something serious, for something more serious.
Yeah, but that's your opinion, and that's the main opinion. But it doesn't mean that every man.
Of course not. I'm not sitting here telling you that that's everybody.
Yeah. It's about the conscious and understanding of how masculine and feminine work, because when it comes down, when you really break it down, the reason why you look at eye candies or something that's good dressed, it's really, you look in the animal kingdom, the one that has the most feathers and does the biggest noise, is the one that gets everything, so it's kind of here as well. Like our lower chakras, our animalistic instinct always looks for, especially for men, you look for somebody that can carry your breed, somebody that looks healthy, and can carry your breed. And it's just an animalistic thing. But when you're conscious about it, same, vice versa, same. Women get their power through the womb. So women love to be with powerful men, financially powerful, spiritually powerful. They love to get with gurus, with athletes, with powerful men. It's not necessarily about the money. I mean, I know that a misconception society thinks, oh, it's just because this dude has a lot of money, but it's the power that he holds, is the energy.
It's his status.
We look for the alpha. So who is the one that brings me the best seed? So if you understand that, I
am so into this topic. So I love this. Yeah. I'm very into this. It's interesting. Quickly, just hold your thought. As much as humans have the ability to think past our instincts, we're intelligent animals. When you look at, say, gorillas, for instance, you have 5 female gorillas and 5 male gorillas. Those 5 female gorillas are all sleeping with the alpha gorilla. The other 4 are left with nothing. Only at a certain point, when maybe the alpha gets old enough and he's too weak to fight off these young, strong gorillas, they're going to try to take him down and get rid of him. So now they can get with the women. So it works the same way in any culture, especially in American culture or Western culture. You're going to have most men who are, and we're going off a little off on a tangent, but this is just, I love this conversation.
We're not going off, and I will tell you later why. But
yeah, I guess it is connected. It is very much connected, truthfully. So you have most men walking around who don't take care of their bodies. They don't have money. They don't have status. They don't know how to talk to women, and they're sitting there celibate with nothing. Women don't even look at them. They don't pay any attention to them. There's a supposed stat, men ages 18 to 40, a third of them in America are celibate. They just never have sex, whether it's in a relationship or not. And since we live in such a small world now with social media, you can have a woman from a random farm town who now has access to athletes, whereas a few years ago, all she knew were the 40 men in her village. So men now are in such a market where even a quote unquote average looking woman, because at the end of the day, calling a spade, we all know when we see somebody, whether they're very attractive or not. Most people will agree, wow, that's a very attractive man or a very attractive woman. So even a very kind of baseline looking woman physically, she is looking for that higher value guy. She's not interested in the base level guy. And that's also why it's so important as a guy more than ever now to be to be able to give as much as you can, to be as high value as you can, because you're competing in an ever difficult market. The beauty of this is that so many men completely give up. There's so many guys think they have no chance and completely give up. And they do whatever they've been doing, whatever makes them miserable. They don't go to the gym. They don't get a new job. They don't work on their emotional health. They just stay in the same position they're in, and they hope something will change, that some dream girl will fall from the sky. And it's only getting harder and harder. Women are making more money. Women have more options. And this is something I realize. But the beauty about this is it makes me happy because I understand the dynamics of it. And I understand that on the flip side, if you can become that guy, I mean, the world is your oyster. You just, not even from a standpoint of having unlimited sexual options, because that's a byproduct. It's that you now don't have to be that person. You don't have to be that man that's constantly chasing. You can be doing what you're doing. And as a result, women will gravitate towards you because you're now not like every other 9 to 5, out of shape guy that has nothing going.
Yeah.
End of rant. End of my 2 cents.
Yeah. Well, going back to Tantra and how it's connected, that's exactly how it's connected. In Tantra and Tantric sex, the teachings are to get out of this animalistic programming and coming more into your higher chakras, which means your heart, your third eye, your crown chakra, coming more into the spiritual realms of sexuality, and not be so much in the lower and going all crazy and trying to, like you guys like to, not everybody, but, a lot of you would say unconscious or men that haven't really worked with that material yet, is like having as many girls as you can, having the prettiest girls as you can to brag with them in front of your friends, all of that, which is more animalistic. So Tantra teaches you to go away from the animalistic and go back into the sacredness, which in the ancient Egypt originally, how the Anunnaki and anyways, I'm going too far right now, but how
religion talks about this. Monotheism is all about this, Judaism.
Okay. Yeah. So going back in humanity and how it used to be when we didn't even had sexual organs, but we just were born through thoughts, because sexuality is the downfall of humanity. So our biggest challenge to keep yin and yang in balance. So Tantra is the teaching of that, to get out of this, I need to have it right now. It's about, let me drop into my heart and let me see if it's really something that I want to exchange with or not. Is it really worth it for both sides,
Right. Yeah, it's hard. You make such valid points. What's interesting is it's like, on one hand, a man's nature is to spread his seed and be all over the place. And on the other hand, on a higher spiritual level, that might not be the best option to do all the time. So it's like, on one hand, monotheism, for instance, pushes the notion of complete monogamy, no sex till marriage. But then you have I've spoken about this on a recent podcast, then you have these prominent figures in all religions, in all monotheistic religions specifically, because I don't know much about Hinduism or Buddhism, that the prominent figures often had a harem of women. So that's where things get tricky. And it's like, on one hand, it seems that it's wrong to have so many, but on the other hand, prominent figures did, but they kind of put it in a way where it wasn't pointless or mundane or casual. They all served a purpose. And back then they needed to procreate. There weren't enough people, so to speak. There are all these reasons. It just seems to me that the men who were capable and high value enough did it. And the poorer men who didn't have the resources weren't able to and didn't do so. That's kind of what it sounds like.
Well, you can be... Yes, in general, you're right, but what is poor? Now we have to have the definition of poor, but because what I said, you can be attracted to financial abundance, but I have seen a lot of women that are very, very attracted to very high spiritual men, and they have no money. So they're poor.
Yeah, that's the exception. That's not the rule.
Is super strong. I did wanted to mention that it's been vice versa as well. We used to be wild women, before all the churches burned all the medicine women and wild women. We used to choose our men. There's even a story back in Egypt as well, where the priestesses held the temple, and twice a year they would come outside and choose the men that they wanted. And we would choose what semen is going to come inside of us, or who we want to get with. So men also, and I know that a lot of men nowadays hate that topic or don't really like to talk about it, because the fear that a woman is a wild woman and just does whatever the heck she wants and sleeps whatever she wants and with how many ever she wants to is very, very intimidating to a lot of men. But it used to be like that as well, that women were so empowered that they would do whatever they want to. So it's kind of interesting when we speak about...
probably wasn't nearly as common. It was probably much less common, though. Many instances throughout history where that happened, probably wasn't nearly as common if it happened.
Oh, yes. There's a lot of instances in history that happened, especially when you look into the temples, the ancient Egyptians, the teachings over there, women used to always do whatever they wanted to. They used to always be wild. And you can still even find it nowadays. Like there's women that are married to several men. So
that's just strange, man.
I know it's strange for you because you're not used to it and not heard about it, but
I'm not sharing a woman. I'm not sharing a woman.
It's intimidating to men.
Well, I don't call it intimidating. It's just I'm possessive in the sense where I'm not allowing another man to touch my woman. Like if I'm in a committed relationship, listen, I'm young. Who the hell knows what'll happen in 30 years down the marriage? But I don't know. It's hard for me to grasp that. It's because I just feel like you heard of the term simp. Just having another guy, no. I think it has to do with the kind of guy, honestly.
Vice versa. You know, for many girls, it's like, what? I have to share my guy. No. Same thing.
I think it also depends on the status of a guy, though, because like you look at celebrities, you'll have these women dating these celebrities, knowing full well these guys are not going to commit to them, but yet they give them the time of day because they're willing to go. They're willing to hope that maybe this rapper or musician will stay faithful to them, but it almost never happens. And instead of going and finding some faithful guy who might not be as high up on the totem pole, they want to take that bet on that top tier person, which is very interesting. But here's another thing that the difference between, say, some queen back in the day, 7,000 years ago or whatever it is, that was walking out of her castle and saying, "I want you, handsome man. You will come and sleep in my fort." Even, I mean, I didn't live back then, but women have a much easier time finding casual relationships than your average man does. Meaning, a woman on any given day, take Miami, a woman on any given day can go out anywhere, and if her goal is to have sex, she can pretty much guarantee that that's going to happen. Whereas your average guy going out on any given day, unless he's paying for it, can't guarantee that at all. So that's where things are very different. And women will get upset as, "Oh, well, why is it if I sleep around a lot, I get, people crap on me for it?" It's like, well, because it didn't really take any level of ability. All you had to do is step out of the house. Truthfully, that's how I see it. It doesn't, because most men are up for it. They're up for the challenge. So it is a different dynamic. I think that's where that is a different.
Going back to yin and yang and going back to understand that it's all about the breeding. So it's like we women choose who, it's like the flowers, like, we choose who can spill their semen inside of us. We're choosing because we have to receive you. So it's always, in that sense, easier for the one that has to receive. It doesn't mean man or women, it's just we are the receivers. We are the one that have to open and receive it. So we can decide, unless obviously if it's a healthy thing, not like a forced thing, but we can decide who we're going to let in and who we don't. And then the other part that is the one that gives has to wait until the receiving part opens up. So there's, again, it's a universal law.
Nathalie, thank you so much for coming on. Very much appreciated. I learned a lot. And guys, remember to subscribe, like, and share. I'm going to drop all your social media on the podcast. My editor is going to put all the links up for you, and like a picture of your Instagram and any other sites you have so people can check it out. Guys, thanks for tuning in. And as always, make sure to check out each upcoming episode at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Until next time.